Having an elite level midfielder in the middle of the park can completely change the way that your team plays. They can help you out defensively and offensively, but which ones are the good ones? Which ones are those elite midfielders? Well, stick with me today and I'm going to give you 10 of the best meta midfielders, aka midfielders that work really well in this year's match engine for FM24. That's right, today we'll be focusing on some of the best meta midfielders, but let me show you what I mean by meta. This year, in the last couple of years in the FM match engine, physical attributes have kind of trumped everything in the FM world. If you've got someone that's quick, strong or tall, they're going to play really well. If they've got all three, then they are going to be very, very good. Combine that with some good technical and mental attributes, and they're the kind of players that we're looking for. Kefram is an example here. I'm not classing him as one of my 10 because we spoke about him in a previous video about meta midfielders, but today is a brand new 10, all from after the winter update 2, some of which you might not have known about before the update, but have been upgraded to be really top level players. So we've got loads to get into. Before we do though, if you do enjoy the video, smash the like button for us, subscribe for more, and more importantly, let me know in the comments who your favourite midfielder is so far in FM24. Before we go into our 10, I want to give 2 honourable mentions though. These are players that maybe aren't quite there yet in terms of being a meta midfielder, but could be in the future. Everyone else in this video is 21 plus, but I've got 2 Wonderkids I want to look at. The first is Lamine Camara of FC Metz in Ligue 1, often get relegated and he is usually available for a decent price. I mean, 10 million at the start is a pretty good fee anyway for the Senegalese international, 19 years of age and really well rounded, which is what we're looking for with these players. With the right development, he can be an elite level box to box midfielder. He already has 15 work rate, decent in the tackle, decent passing, decent on the ball as well, and a decent goal scorer. Combine that all and you've got a very decent player, but once he develops a little bit, by the time he's 2021, you will have an elite level midfielder here. And my other honourable mention is Habib Diarra, another one from the French divisions, a 19-year-old from Strasbourg, came through in their academy. They've signed a lot of players recently, but he is an academy product. He might not look amazing straight away, but scout him in your save, there's a good chance he will turn into something special, and for 2 million, he is an absolute bargain. Not as good in the tackle, but he's pretty good on the ball when it comes to creativity, good first touch and dribbling too, and with some growth, those physical attributes can really mould into a well-rounded midfielder. So I'm not saying he's amazing straight away, but he's going to be an honourable mention because I really like him at full growth. In no particular order though, our first of our 10 players in this list is Lewis Ferguson, one that was upgraded massively in the winter update, with Bologna doing so well this season under Motta, I think it is. Yes, he has been a key part of that, the Scottish international. He was formerly of Aberdeen, came through at Bologna. No one would have really expected too much from him, I don't think, as much as he was a great player at Aberdeen, and now he's gone on to be one of the best midfielders in Serie A, 23 years of age, valued at about 20 million, great work rate, good in the tackle, can play the ball well as well with 15 passing and 13 technique. Combine that with some good finishing, dribbling and first touch, and really well-rounded physical attributes, as well as some great mentals and player traits. This is a fantastic midfield option. You can pick him up for 20 million quid or so, and within a few years, I guarantee you, when he's in his prime, he'll be worth 50, 60, 70 million, and he's one that a lot of big clubs are looking at in the real-life transfer window, if you're to believe the transfer gossip out there. I'm going to save my favourite till last, but one of my favourites in this list is Chet Doucouré of Crystal Palace. He is also one of the more expensive, if not the most expensive player that we're going to look at today. As much as I could tell you about Valverde and, Pedri, Gavi, you all know about these players. You might know about some of these too, but they're options that are less likely to be picked by you guys that I wanted to highlight. Chet Doucouré is fantastic, age 23. The Malian is someone that has great attributes anyway. He's a really good creator who can also tackle really well, but what I really like about him is very often Palace will get relegated in season 1 or 2 and you can get him for a cut price deal, and if that doesn't happen, he near enough never signs a new deal with Palace. So if you do get to 2027, you can sign him on a free contract. I do lots of rebuilds on my own channel, which if you want to check out, you can find links in the description, and the amount of times we've picked up Chet Doucouré on a free is pretty unheard of. He's one of the few that I tend to get on a regular basis. I think he's a fantastic player, a really good deep line playmaker, one of the best out there, and he's been injured for a lot of this season for Palace in real life, but when he starts playing again, I'm sure we'll see these attributes increasing. One of the cheapest players in our list though is Lassana Koulibaly, playing for Salernitana out in the Italian Serie A. This is a player that you can pick up for 6 million. Another Malian, 32 capped international, 27-year-old, known for his tough tackling ability. His marking isn't the best for what you'd want him to do as a ball-winning midfielder, but when it comes to work rate, tackling, dribbling, first touch, he's got all of that in his locker. He's also a decent passer of the football too, and physically he's a monster with decent pace, decent aerial ability, but it's that strength where he really shines there. He'll be bullying players in that midfield, and for 6 million quid or so, you can get a guy in his prime that could play at the highest level. Speaking of playing at a high level, we've got a French international here, Youssouf Fofana of Monaco. Now, if you were to tell me for 30 million you could pick up someone that's getting 10 international appearances for what is one of the greatest France sides I've ever seen, I would say that's a pretty good deal, and I think it is, because he's only got 2 years left on his contract. If not, I think Monaco will be charging a lot more than 25 to 30 million for a player that technically maybe isn't the world's best, but I actually think he's got a lot going for him. You might see a lot of these weak attributes and assume he's bad, but does he necessarily need long throws, finishing, crossing, corners? Maybe finishing, but I mean, he's got 14 dribbling, 14 first touch, he's got decent tackling ability at 15, actually really good tackling ability, work rate, he's good on the ball too, with 14 passing and 14 vision. He's good in terms of his decision making, he's got great composure, he anticipates the game well, he's aggressive, and then physically he is dominant. He's got a bit of pace about him and he's got some strength too. He likes to drive forward with the ball, which suits his physical style with that 14 dribbling as well, and he's just a very good midfield option. Like I say, 24, he's not in his prime yet, and I think if Monaco had a longer contract on him, he would cost you a lot more. So Youssouf Fofana is one of the best in the list and definitely one for the elite teams. But if you're a team in the lower levels of the Premier League, then you might want to check out Hector Herrera. He's a Mexican international that we all know. He's the oldest player in this list, 33 years of age, and you might think his career is up now that he's in the MLS playing for Houston, but this is a player that attribute-wise is still right at the top level. Now, he might decline very quickly, but he's got good natural fitness. I reckon he's got another 2 years left at a very high level. And if you were to tell me like a relegation level team in the Prem, let's take, Luton, for example, or a team like that, maybe Sheffield United, he would be their best player in terms of attributes on this game. He is phenomenal still. Yes, he might decline over the next couple of years, but he's a super experienced player, a leader, and he could just be that player that you need if you can get your hands on him. Hector Herrera could be a very good pickup. But if you're looking for a player on the younger side, then you might want to check out 21-year-old Andre, a Brazilian playing for Fluminense out in Brazil, or Fluminense, apologies if I pronounced that wrong. But this is a player that in real life is attracting interest from some of the world's biggest teams. Liverpool have been linked, Chelsea have been linked in the past. In game here, he's wanted by West Ham, and for 10 million quid, he is a great deal. Now, I've had him in a few of my rebuilds, and I've loved him. He's brilliant in the in-game engine because of the attributes he has. Like the first two players that we looked at, the honourable mentions, he's got time to grow still. So I'm not saying he's the complete product just yet, but when he does develop, when he does start to grow, he can be one of the world's best deep line playmakers, and he's got the well-rounded attributes to back it up. I mean, look at those mentals, age 21, and he's already phenomenal in every area. No weakness to his mental game. There's a bit of Premier League tax on this player, which makes him the most expensive, or joint with Chet Decore really, in this list. This is Joe Linton of Newcastle, 26-year-old Brazilian. You all know him, formerly a striker, ended up going into midfield and is now one of the best box-to-box midfielders, potentially in world football, definitely in Football Manager, with 20 work rate, great teamwork, passing ability, tackling, finishing, first touch, heading, dribbling. This guy is unreal. The bravery, the mental attributes, the physicals, he is so good. Now, realistically, most clubs aren't going to pay 50-60 million for him, but I had to have him in this list because I've done a Newcastle rebuild recently, had him in the midfield, and he was pulling out numbers that I've had, world-class midfielders in there, not doing as well as Joe Linton did. He is an unreal player, one of my favourites that I've used this year, really shone to me in that Newcastle rebuild. And you might think he's quite old, he's not necessarily. 26 years of age, he's going towards the prime of his career, only 2 years left on his deal as well. He might be someone that you could pick up if you're playing for an elite team, maybe outside of England in a different European club. Maybe you could attract him to your team. Montpellier's Joris Chotard is up next, so 25 million for the 21-year-old. Much like Andre, he's not the final product yet, but AC Milan clearly see the talent, and that's why they're interested in him, because the Frenchman is a great player on the ball who can tackle well, and whilst he's not going to score you many goals with 6 finishing and 6 long shots, his physicals are really well rounded as a deep line playmaker at the base of your midfield. This man will be unreal. Work rate, teamwork, passing, vision, technique, tackling, he is ready to go. He's not necessarily the final article just yet, but give it a couple of years and this guy will be well worth that 25 million investment. 2 to go, my favourites up next. next, but Zambo Anguissa is our next player, playing for Napoli, 35 million. If you're Manchester United, if you're Arsenal, this is the kind of midfielder you should be looking at. He's a brilliant profile in the middle of a park, great going forward, great defensively too, really well-rounded mentally. He's got everything you could want, and the physical attributes back it up as well. He is just a physical presence in that midfield, but silky on the ball as well. 35 million for a 27-year-old in his prime, one of the best midfielders in his game. Zambo Anguissa, the Cameroonian, you need to check him out. But my favourite has to be Mikel Merino. Again, one of the more expensive ones, but if you were to say 30 million for a Spanish international in his prime that's getting minutes over some of the best midfielders in the world, you might go, but it's only Mikel Merino, he's not Gavi or Pedri, is he? Well, I mean, look at his attributes and you'll see why I love him. He's got everything that he needs to be a top-level midfielder. Again, good going forward, defensively, on the ball, physically, mentally, everything you could want, but he's got it all at a very high level. He's not just well-rounded, he is gifted at all of those things. He's not just okay at everything, he is good at pretty much everything. Real Sociedad are not going to let Mikel Merino go easily, but if you can get your hands on him, again, this is like a Manchester City level player. I think he's that good. You need to check him out. If you have got the money to sign him, he will not let you down. He's a consistent player too. Mikel Merino is a gem in the midfield. But there you go, there's some meta midfielders for you to check out in your save. Remember to let me know in the comments who your favourite is, even if they weren't mentioned in this video. Maybe we'll include them in a future video, but if not, at least we've got a list there for other people to check out. Make sure you check out my channel in the description too if you want to see any of those rebuilds. But most of all, have a great day everybody, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.